Hey guys, happy Saturday. Welcome to the show. Natalie, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Natalie's sitting in the co-host seat tonight. In the Krista went to prison. Let's just say that. She's in prison right
She
now.
did.
She did, literally, she
She
went to
did.
prison. No,
Yeah.
well, actually, yes, she did. She's at the Missouri State Penitentiary with Haunted Souls Paranormal, and they're doing an investigation there tonight. So she could not be here, and Natalie was kind enough to fill in for us tonight. So, Natalie, thank you for coming on tonight.
Oh, you are very welcome. Happy to be here.
And how are you today? How was your Saturday?
It was very productive. How was yours?
I worked, so it
Oh,
sucked.
ooh, sorry to hear that.
It is what it is. But, you had to work. So. We got this new gadget thing over here on YouTube that I just love. And the crowns and everything. So a quick leaderboard check. I feel like I'm a golf commentator. A quick leaderboard check, and you'll see Denise is in the lead with 100 experience
Yeah, the nice
points,
soft
followed by JoJo, who's 25 strokes behind her. Tied for second is Jason, also 25 strokes behind, off the pace. So that's my golfing sportscaster voice.
I need you to not quit your day job. Just don't do it.
Duly noted. Need a new co-host for Monday. No, I'm kidding. Is this a race, JoJo? Yes, it is a race. And no, that something new with YouTube that they're having crowns and leaderboards and stuff. So I don't know where it started from. It's kind of neat. Just one more thing to distract me. So fantastic. Quick hello to everybody in chat. Denise is here. David is here from Paranormal 411. You guys got a show coming on soon, so good luck. Have a good night, buddy. JoJo, how you doing? Mickey G, Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. Hey guys, BJ's here. How you doing, BJ? I thought okay. MK Ultra, what's up? Judging people by strokes. Yes, we are. We judge. Didn't mean to do that again. Varax is here. How you doing? Good to see you. Who else is here? I saw Jason Finch is here. The Finchster is in the house. How you doing, Jason? Jason is up in Washington State, I believe. Same place as our guest tonight. Jason from Paranormal 411. So we have two Jasons in the house. Huh. T-Bone, how you doing, sir? Smoky Mountain Wanderer, how you doing? Mickey G starting things off. Thank you very much, Mickey. Too tired to race anyone. That's okay, Mickey. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, Mickey. Hope everybody is having a great Saturday. Great way to start your weekend off. It is rainy and gunky here. What's it like down in Florida?
Not down here. It's hot, in the 90s and sunny. Not right this second, but it was earlier. It was really gross.
I'll ask Steve when we bring him out here, but I bet it's raining up there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it usually does. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we got a great show. Before we get to Steve, I want to plug this one more time. I know you guys are getting tired of hearing it, but once September rolls around, you won't hear it anymore. Get your tickets now to the Crossing Realms Conference, September 19th and 20th. Did you know we had a conference going on?
No, what? First time I'm hearing about this.
To me. It's at the Eagleton Civic Center, and it's going to just be a fantastic show. Fantastic conference. I used to call it concert. Now I call it show.
Yeah.
I'm a mess. That's what you get when you. Roger Blair's here. How you doing, Roger? Look, squirrel. I don't know why.
It's something shiny.
Something shiny.
Shiny.
There's a conference since when? Says Mickey.
Yep. Yes.
Jilly Maria, how you doing, Jilly? Jilly is going to be on the show here in July. I don't exactly remember the date. So, Jilly, if you can give me the date on there, I believe it's somewhere around the 20th. So T-Bone's up in the Pacific Northwest as well. So make sure that if you keep your notifications on so you can get a reading from Jilly. One of my favorite mediums is going to be on here. So making her third or fourth appearance. I can't remember. We love having Billy.
I'll have to get a reading from her.
Yeah. Amy Creel here. How you doing, Amy? All right. So we are going to bring Steve up. He is a. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I went to the wrong spot. Anyway, we'll just. Hi, Steve.
Oh, hi.
How you doing? I messed myself up, then I messed you up. So sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's okay.
How you doing, sir?
Good. How's it going over there in the Midwest and
in the Midwest
in the
South
eastern
Florida?
part?
It is good. It's a hot, muggy day today. So.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
What's it like that? What's it like out there in Washington?
Oh, it's actually not. It was nice today. The sun came out and everything. We didn't get any rain and.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, it's usually pretty rainy here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where at are you in Washington State? Close to
I'm in
Seattle?
Vancouver. That's
you're in Vancouver. You're not in Washington State at all. So that kind of just blew that up.
Well, it's Washington State. It's Vancouver. It's not Washington. It's not Vancouver,
Canada,
British Columbia. It's Vancouver. We're on the southwest part of the state. We're right above Portland, Oregon. In fact,
okay.
We're right. Vancouver's right on the Columbia River, and of course, if you go south and you cross the Columbia River south, then you're in Oregon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to, and I know this is right in your wheelhouse, Natalie, with Bigfoot and investigations and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to get out. Well, one, to go squatching, and two, get up to the Great Northwest up there. But I haven't been able to make it as far north as San Francisco. So
that's a dream of mine, is to be up there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, when you make it over here, then look me up and I'll give you the tour.
Definitely.
I'm definitely going to take you up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been working Mount St Helens pretty exclusively for about a year and a half straight.
Really?
Pretty much every weekend. Yeah.
Really? Well, before we get into all of that and your research and everything, first off, tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel. It's called Steve Searches, correct?
Yeah, Steve Searches. Well, my YouTube channel, Steve Searches, is not even 2 years old. It's fairly new, but it actually started out. I didn't start Steve Searches out as a Bigfoot research channel. I worked for quite a few years. I worked missing persons in this area, and I had put Steve Searches up as a way, an easy way for families that needed help with their missing loved ones to get a hold of me. And so I'd put it up and I put in a contact form and stuff like that, because I've been working missing searches probably since about 2010, roughly. Kind of a long story in itself, but anyhow, it wasn't that long ago when see, I'm a map maker by trade, and I use drones for creating maps, and I had run across a group of Bigfoot folks one time at a restaurant in Woodland, Washington, and I got talking to them, and they asked me what I would charge them to go map some research areas for them. They had found some structures and prints and things like that, and it just sounded interesting. So I just did it pro bono, and that was kind of, I kind of fell into that crowd, and that just kind of started that off. Well, it turned out that I just ended up with more Bigfoot research projects than I did missing persons, and so it just morphed into a Bigfoot research project.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that kind of explains the numbers you have on your TV in the background.
Yeah, the 25, the little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody mentioned that in chat, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I had a roommate has dogs, and they kept leaving little piles around. I would use those to mark the piles, for evidence. So
the 25th time he's pooped here.
Yeah. They got so much use. They just, that they just found a home there.
And when you go to a restaurant, it'd be funny just to put that on the table and just sit there and let's see what happens. Yeah. Get waiters. I don't remember doing numbers. Anyway,
what's going on here?
Yeah. So, Bigfoot. What made you get into searching for Bigfoot and researching all that?
Well, I probably started about the same way. I think I started the same way a lot of people started. I think a lot of people start when they're kids, and heck, aging myself, I was about 5 when the Patterson-Gimlin film came out, and the Bigfoot wasn't new. I mean, of course, at that time, but that changed a lot of things because, obviously, that was more evidence now, and so that was kind of so that film was a pretty new thing when I was a kid, and so I kind of grew up with it, and as documentaries and more films would come out on TV and stuff, then that was I remember, I think I was like maybe a couple of years after that, we started seeing these documentaries on the television about it, and I remember seeing this creature, and I thought, wow, that's pretty scary and pretty exciting. So as a kid, that stuff stays with you. Well, then there was a film that came out called Legend of Boggy Creek. I think I must have been about 9. And I can just tell by your reaction, you've probably heard this before.
Yeah.
That movie created a lot of Bigfoot people. It was kind of like, there were some other things. There was a cop show called Adam 12 that was popular back in the 70s. That created a lot of cops. And it's just like this movie created a lot of Bigfoot people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I moved to this part of the state back in 05, and of course this is an epicenter. This is a Bigfoot epicenter because you got the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, which is what I work now, and then you go down into Oregon. It's pretty much UFOs and Bigfoot and paranormal 24/7 here. It's a culture here.
Yeah,
it's a hot spot.
Yeah, sure. And of course, here there is a lot of Squatch Fest and Bigfoot festivals and stuff like that. And so I started to frequent those probably in about 2000. And it just kind of took off from there. And then after I met up with these other people, then about a little over a year ago, I ran across a small group that was just starting out down in Sweet Home, Oregon. So I started working with them, and I've been working pretty closely with them ever since. They have a pretty good organization going, and it's they started about a year ago just as a Facebook group. It's Sweet Home Oregon Sasquatch Research Group, and of course they partnered up with some other people. There's another group called the Sasquatch Highway, and I usually name drop them because they've been really good about letting me post my videos and things like that. So they've all really become research partners, I guess.
Nice. And a lot of people in this community, I found out at least that we're all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for the right answers and stuff. So everybody's more than happy to share links and stuff and promote each other. So I appreciate that, and you feel free to share stuff on my pages too. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how often do you get out in the woods?
I get out every weekend. Pretty much, except for if something comes up. If there's might be a local festival or something like that.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, in fact, I was looking at on my YouTube channel, I have 47 videos up in the last year, so that's almost a video every week. That's pretty close.
Mhm.
Yeah. I dropped your YouTube link to your YouTube channel in chat, so and Pam will have it on there as well.
Oh, great.
So
Thank you.
guys, make sure you jump over there and subscribe to it. Some really, really cool stuff that you have out there.
Oh, it's been quite a year. Yeah,
Really?
it's been quite a year. I have gone out to a few other places. Most everything has been Mount St. Helens, but I did I covered an ape cat. I made 2 videos on that. That's sort of a local story. It's not Mount St. Helens. It's the Columbia Gorge, which of course is right along the Columbia River.
Yeah.
So it's just on the south part of the Gifford Pinchot.
You said an ape
that was an
cat?
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of weird the way it worked out. Yeah. Well, must have been about 4 years ago. I was at a Squatch Fest, and Ken Gerhardt was one of the guests there.
Mhm.
And it was the first night of the Squatch Fest, and the first night of the Squatch Fest is usually just a meet and greet. It's not
Mhm.
that's usually on a Friday, and then on Saturday is when they have they have all of that.
Mhm.
Of all the presentations and stuff, but I always catch all of it. Well, there was this Friday night. I went over to his table, and there was some guy standing there talking to him. And this guy was from Woodland, which is just right up the road from where I'm at, and he was telling Ken Gerhardt about this creature that he saw out in a farmer's field,
Mhm.
right on the outskirts of town, and he said it looked kind of like a mountain lion, or here they call it cougars. In Montana, where I come from, we call it mountain lions. Same thing. He said it looked like a mountain lion, but he said it was black. And he said every once in a while it would stand up, and it would just stand there like a chimpanzee or an ape or something. And he said he thought it was pretty. He was talking about just how weird it was, and he was asking Ken Gerhardt what he thought of it. But anyhow, I just kind of hung out and I BS with the guy for a little while. And so fast forward the calendar a few years, a friend of mine sent me a podcast link to it was an interview with a guy that is out in this little town on the Columbia River called Bingen. Real small town. I mean, it's probably like 1,000 people or something like that.
Mhm.
And he was talking about this creature that he called an ape cat, and it's in Klickitat County, so he gave it a name. He called it the Klickitat ape cat.
Huh.
And he claimed that he saw one swimming in a lake right on the edge of the Columbia River. He said this thing was like, he said it was like a panther, only it had like a monkey face. And he said it would jump off the rocks into the water and swim around in there, like it was getting fish or something like that. So he spent a few years investigating this, and he came up with some interesting ideas from it being, it may be a paranormal thing or an extraterrestrial creature, and he came up with a lot of different ideas. So I thought I'd go check it out, and it was probably a year ago when I had decided that I was going to check it out. But then earlier this year, I went out to this area where he claimed that he had seen this. And I went over through the whole area. I made 2 videos on it. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah.
He had also come up with some other evidence that, we have in Washington, we have a nuclear, it's, I guess, what they call a nuclear reservation. But it's the Hanford nuclear site, where now it's pretty much just where they've disposed of nuclear material there. And evidently there was at one time there was some experiments that were happening there because they were the government. It's kind of a long story, but the government had a program where they were training things like dolphins to go and find bombs and
yeah,
things of that nature. And they apparently were training panthers. They had I remember he said they had about 6 or 8 of them. And they were training because panthers are friendly with water. And at some point, these panthers got out and they managed to round up all but a couple of them. And so there's been some conjecture about these ape cats being escapees from this experimental lab. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a neat story.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense that it could be an escapee. And thank you, T-Bone, very much. I greatly appreciate you, my friend. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you hear a lot about, Mothman and other cryptids that could be from an experiment from the government. So this is, it could very well be something that is government created. And it's just frightening that could be.
Well, if you kind of, if you take these ideas and, they sound a little out there, on the surface, but if you turn them around and you say, okay, well, let's say it is true. What would it look like if it were true? Well, if what you're looking at is exactly what it would look like, then there's probably some truth in it. Yeah. There is some native lore. There's oddly enough, right in this area where his sighting was, it's this lake that he said that he was seeing. He saw this creature in it's Horse Thief. It's called Horse Thief Lake, and there's a mountain next to it, Horse Thief Butte. Well, right next to that, there's a Horse Thief State Park. And one of the reasons that the park is there is because there's some old petroglyphs there. And if you look at the petroglyphs, there's one specifically, and I show it in my video, that looks like a cat head with sort of, and its face has sort of like human features to it.
Oh, wow.
Almost like an ape.
On a petroglyph.
Cat's ears on petroglyph, yeah.
Wow.
So those things have probably been around for quite some time then.
Right.
Might not be the government.
So if it's not a like a mutated creature from an experimental lab, of course, if you think that's just sort of a, like I said, that's conjecture. You take things that are true and try to make sort of a story out of it or an idea out of it, but it could be a creature that had been around for a really long time.
Yeah, awesome.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
With all of the UFO activity out in Mount St. Helen, that area, who knows? It could be an alien species somehow. You never know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's going on out there?
Yeah, that was one of the things that had a lot of influence me since I've lived here, because 20 years, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, the things like the ideas of UFOs and Bigfoot stuff, I would have just scoffed at it. But the more time I spend out here, especially now since I've lived here, the more time I spend out in the woods and out searching around, it just seems more and more plausible now. These connections between paranormal connections, extraterrestrial connections, because it goes back to, well, say if it's true, what would it look like? Especially when you have like people disappear around up here. They disappear out in the Gifford Pinchot all the time. You look at some of like David Polide's work, there's a lot of his work that takes place around here. Well, you get tracks, or you when you're tracking a person and they just disappear, and the tracks just stop.
It's very, very
Okay.
bizarre. There's a lot of very strange and unexplained disappearances in that area, and also areas like the Smoky Mountains. Very strange, bizarre
Oh yeah.
disappearances.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of stories come out from those areas. But I have a video that I made about, it must have been about 6 months ago, about I was out and I saw a hiker and the hiker just seemed to disappear. And I have the hiker on video. There was a hiker there.
How close did
And
you get to him?
oh, probably 50 yards. They were coming right up a trail.
That
It was pretty weird.
So what do you,
I had gone to it was a campsite that I frequent all the time. And this
yeah.
particular campsite, I frequent that because it's far off the road and there's a trail there that goes around a clear cut. And I use that clear cut because there's a road that goes through the clear cut and I always find animal tracks there. It's sort of it's like a highway there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I use that clear cut a lot. And this one morning I was there and I was just starting out. I was just starting to hike on that trail, and I had my chest GoPro going, and
Mm-hmm.
the thing kept shutting off, which is pretty unusual for me because I always keep batteries charged, and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
my GoPro kept shutting off, and I thought, oh, this damn thing keeps. And I thought, well, maybe it's a dead battery or something. Well, I'm walking and I'm talking and I'm playing with this GoPro.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a hiker coming up the trail, coming the other way, coming up toward me.
Yeah.
And you can see it. I show it on the video. You can see this hiker down there.
And this video, we have a few people asking about the video. That's on your YouTube channel, correct?
It's on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember offhand which number it is, but yeah, it's from back in I think it's in about November, December.
Okay.
But anyhow, so I'm walking back there and I see this hiker coming, and so I step off to the side of the trail. Just usually, when you encounter another hiker, you're going to have a social moment. You'll say hi and how's the weather, yada, yada. So I'm stepping off and I thought, well, I was changing my GoPro battery out, which takes 10 seconds, 5 or 10 seconds or something like that.
Right.
And I get the battery and I get everything going and there's no hiker. So I thought, well, that was a little bit strange. I mean, but then, they may have just walked off and, maybe they were shy or something like that,
How long is this video?
Oh, it's probably, it's not long, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
But it says it says it
In the description?
in my
the title?
well, that, and it should say in my thumbnail too.
Okay.
So I put the thumbnails and I have kind of like the highlights in there. There's one in there about a hiker, a weird hiker.
Okay. I tell you what,
Yeah.
I'm gonna you guys keep going. I'm gonna look for this on your. Do you mind if I play it a little bit of it?
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. I got a few people are asking about it. I'm gonna try and see if I can find it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll be looking. So.
What are your thoughts on portals? I'd like to know your thoughts on portals.
Well, I haven't. The portal idea is not really something that I've delved into too deeply, but it's like one of those things where 5 years ago I wouldn't have even entertained it. But here there's a lot of as I understand, there is a lot of areas here where there's a lot of I guess it's like magnetic anomalies here, and if you kind of sit down and chart it on a map, there's an unusually high amount of it around here, especially between here and like Mount Shasta, which is not that just south of here. Mount Shasta's got a lot of weird stuff going there.
Okay.
And one thing that I have noticed too is that these anomalies, which the portals, it seems to me like they tend to gather where, see, the one thing that Mount Shasta and Mount St. Helens have in common is they have lava tubes. And some people, if they're not sure what a lava tube is, it's just basically, it's just a area underground where lava flows, and then later on, when the lava stops flowing, they just leave these empty tubes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pretty big one right here at Mount St. Helens. It's called a Ape Cave, but it's not a cave. It's a lava tube, and people have reported seeing like people going and disappearing and stuff. It's the same thing with Mount Shasta. There's lava tubes in Mount Shasta, and even the native folks would talk about how they would see people coming in and out of these. And these lava tubes, and they also happen to be in the same places where they would have these magnetic anomalies would occur. So,
wow.
Hey, 5 years ago, I kind of scoffed at the idea, but now after all the time that I've spent out in the woods and stuff, it seems to add up now.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, at this point, there's so much weird stuff now that almost anything is pretty much on the table, because
right.
Like when I go to Mount St. Helens, weird, unusual things is normal there. If I were to go up to Mount St. Helens and nothing weird happened, that would be weird. Right?
Something normal would happen. That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, like these disappearing hikers and just stuff like that.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's always something. It's like I'm always my adult now kids. Every time I go up there, there's always something.
So what is can you give us a story of one of the craziest things that's happened at Mount St. Helens?
Well, there's stories about, back when the mountain erupted back in 81. I guess, it was 81.
Yeah.
There's stories about them about that government using helicopters to haul dead Bigfoot out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was a sophomore in high school then, but I wasn't living here. But some of the crazier things. Are you talking about like crazy things that I've heard of, or crazy things that have happened?
Either one. What you've witnessed, what you've seen.
Well, I had just about 2 weeks ago. A week ago last weekend, I was up in. Well, actually, oddly enough, it was up a place called Panther Creek, which is just north of where the ape cat story takes place.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to learn that Panther Creek. See, we don't have, panthers aren't indigenous here. I've never seen a panther. I don't know anybody who has seen a panther here, but Panther Creek was named after there's a small town Carson that's nearby, and back in I think it was about the 1860s or so, when the local postmaster said that he claimed to see a panther crossing one of the creeks back there, and that was the creek they named it Panther Creek. But anyhow, a couple of weeks ago, I was back there for a few nights, and I have this it's a little thermal gadget that plugs in the side of my phone.
Mm-hmm.
They're about $300, and I'd been charging it up, and I was having a night off that night. I was going out. I usually wait till about midnight, and then I'll go and hike around for maybe about 3 hours usually.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just getting ready for my night off. Well, it was sitting on my tailgate charging, and it was done charging. I pick it up, and I'm just kind of fooling around with it. And there's a tree it was like maybe 20 feet away. It was like right on the outskirts of the area I was camping. I saw a hot spot, a red hot spot on thermal. It was right on the side of the tree, and I thought, because it was just down at the bottom on the ground, and I thought, maybe it must be a squirrel or something like that. And so I thought, well, I'll just walk up on the squirrel, get some, some video of squirrels scampering off or whatever. So I'm walking up. So I start walking toward the tree, and in thermal, you always tell when it's really warm because it's red, and then as it cools off, it starts to turn more toward white, toward like a white and a gray, and then off it goes. And so I'm walking up to it, and it starts cooling, and I thought, oh, it must be around the back of the tree. And so I start walking around to the back of the tree, and there was a big warm spot there right behind this tree.
Oh,
Well, that's obviously it's not a squirrel.
right.
It was probably maybe about 18, 20 inches or so.
Oh, wow.
Maybe half that wide. So I'm walking around the tree. I thought, well, that's kind of weird because it's not a squirrel. So as I'm walking up to it, I could see it just sort of disappear. It was cooling off, and there were more of them behind that tree, just kind of going off in the woods. So I'm standing there looking at them, and I could see everything. I could see things like rocks, because rocks will stay warm for a while.
Yeah.
Off to the side, I had my gas can from my generator, and I could see it clearly because the gas is still warm from it sitting out there. But I just am like watching these footprints. I don't know if they were footprints, but there was something there right behind that tree, just as I was just sitting there. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you hear anything, like any movement? Just the hot spots.
I didn't hear a thing. I wouldn't have even known it was there had I not been playing. And I just happened to pick it up. Because, sometimes, you charge batteries or something like that, you pick it up, and it just like out of habit, you just play with it for a little bit or whatever. And I was just picking it up and looking at it, and I just happened to look, and there was that thermal signature right there. And I thought, well, that's pretty weird because something was behind the tree and it was watching me. And it was close. I mean, it was like maybe 20 feet from where I was sitting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the fact that you didn't hear a thing.
I didn't hear anything. I wouldn't have even known it.
Right.
Yeah. So that was like maybe, that was maybe an hour before I would start on the night hike. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking. I almost
I'm
started
sure.
to think, well, I don't know about this one. I almost thought about just cutting things short, because I mean, if the thing's 20 feet away and sitting there right behind the tree, what's it going to do, And
right.
I'm solo. I do almost everything by myself.
Yeah.
And, I mean, out in these places where I go, there's no cell reception or anything like that. I mean, there's no.
And the fact that this thing knows that you're there.
Right.
It was watching you probably. And it was like, oh, it's coming closer. I got to go.
Yeah. So, usually I don't build a fire or anything like that. So I decided, it is a little bit chilly. I think I'll build a fire. I think I just use that as an excuse to build a fire. So I sat on the fire for a little bit, and I thought, no, if I chicken out now, I'll never live it down. So I went out. But I went on a night patrol. I did night patrol. Usually I didn't, and I came back. So,
Wow.
But I'll tell you what, I had eyes in my back of my head that night.
I'm sure you did.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah.
All right, I found the video.
Okay, good.
It looks like it's just a little segment. I'm not going to play the whole video. So if you want to see the entire thing, you're going to have to go over there and subscribe to it. So I hope you guys can hear this. So we're all going to be muted when this comes on. So here we go. Oh, maybe we're not muted. Got to hit play. You see him up this way.
Yeah, it's part where my battery kept dying. Well, I thought the battery was dying. It was just shutting down.
Okay. So you can see looks like he's wearing a denim jacket and a white hat.
Uh-huh.
And a mask of some kind. Wow. And you never found the hiker?
Found nothing, no prints.
Wow. I'm gonna play this back because this is pretty awesome. So he just looks like he's walking up the trail, minding his own business, hands in his pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he sees you, but it doesn't look like he panicked or anything. Just kind of just calmly walked up there, and your camera shut off, and bam, he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course it had snowed that week up there.
Yeah.
And when it snows, there's a snow park up there where people take their snowmobiles up there and they cross country ski and stuff. So I guess it must be the county that they plow that road, or at least they plow it up right up to the snow park, because there's also a gate there and they gate that off. So in the wintertime, there's no four-wheel drives up there on the road. They leave that open for the snowmobiles. Well, anyhow, when they plow these roads, they leave like this little wall of snow on the sides of the roads.
Right.
So it's pretty hard to find. I mean, unless you have four-wheel drive, it's hard to find a place to park. So I thought, well, after I saw this hiker, and at the time I didn't think about it being really that unusual, just other than I just thought it was a little bit weird, maybe kind of rude that, you come up a trail and somebody just kind of scampers off or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking to see where they were parked. It would be easy because there's only so many places you're going to be able to park along this road. And there was no vehicles or anything. No vehicles, no tracks, no nothing.
Right.
I mean, it was like I drove all over the place looking, and it became very clear that I was by myself there in that area.
Wow.
Well within that whole area, but
so we
yeah,
have
weird,
a few questions and comments on that in here. Could have been stepping into a portal. I mean, that would certainly make sense since there was absolutely no trace of them that you could find.
Right.
Was that a man? It sure looked like it was. I don't know. I mean, you couldn't really tell. It sure looked kind of like a man to me. But it looked like he was wearing the mask that you would wear, during COVID and everything. Oops, I said that word. The C disease that was just going around. There was another. Did anybody check the missing persons report after that? No. Maybe a residual haunting of a hiker that died there.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't any missing persons reports that came out at that time or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
so,
that's bizarre.
Yeah.
And it would be really interesting if we, I don't know how we're going to ever find out what the answer is to that, but that would be cool.
Well, next time I go to that area, which probably will be sometime, it'd probably be maybe in about 3 weeks, I'm going to make a habit of taking an EV meter with me when I go up in that, especially that spot. Because, with as far as like the portals, I mean, that's what that looks like. I mean, that's what that would have to look like if someone disappears into a portal.
Yeah.
They're walking around and now they're gone,
Yeah.
And when I walked down, I mean, I continued walking down there, I thought, maybe I might find some tracks, see where they went. It was kind of concerning because there's a really steep bank that runs along there and a creek down there,
Right.
And, especially if it's after it's been snowed, things get slippery back there. It gets really dangerous. So
yeah.
But yeah, there was no prints. There was no nothing there.
So when you walked up to that area, did it feel different to you than where you were before this?
It always feels different up there.
Good point.
I mean, when I first started going up there after I moved here in 2005, it had a weird feeling there.
Yeah.
In fact, the first time when I started to actually believe that Bigfoot could actually be real was maybe a mile from there. It was right up above Ape Cave. There's when you go to Ape Cave there's a main entrance there, but the main entrance isn't at the end of the cave. It's about roughly halfway through it.
Yeah.
And then there's a trail that goes up to one of the far ends. So there's two entrances to Ape Cave, one in the middle and one at one end. And so when you walk this trail, you can park in the main entrance parking lot, but you can walk this trail that goes up, and there's this big open area there. And when you walk out in this open area, there's a bunch of volcanic rocks there. And I used to go around in there and kind of climb around, poke around those rocks, and see those rocks are right above the cave, right above the lava tube.
Right.
And this must have been in about 2008, I think. It was right after I moved it here, and I was up there. It must have been about 7 in the morning, and it was one of those things. It was one of those times where just everything gets quiet. I mean, it's so quiet. It's like in the Gifford Pin Show in the morning. There's nothing quiet about that place. There's birds and things happening, and there's at least wind blowing and stuff like that. But this was like I'm standing out there in this open area, and it was like it kind of reminded me of like when you get your hearing tested and they put you in that little booth and you just it's just completely blank, and it was like that, and it stunk. It smelled like you know what a horse smells like when horses have kind of like their own smell to them. It's kind of a salty, pungent type of smell to it. The only thing that I've ever smelt that was similar to a hell, camels smell like that too, only camels are stronger, but it's kind of like that same smell, and I could smell that out in that open air.
Are there any horse farms around there or any kind of animal sanctuaries?
No, probably the nearest ranch to there would probably be 20 miles at least.
Wow.
But it was this really bad smell, and what was weird about it was that I'm out in the middle of this open area. Sometimes you get that, and I remember I was just standing there and I was looking at the tree line, and I just knew there was something inside it. There was whatever it was inside that tree line. And you get that feeling that you're being watched, and you hear. I mean, you hear about it all the time in movies and stuff like that. But when it happens, that's a whole different animal then.
Yeah.
Especially when it's just you. And that was when I knew that there was weird stuff going on up there.
Yeah.
Mount St Helen.
Jojo made a comment here about the hiker. She knew someone whose brother went missing in a portal in Washington State, never to be seen again. She said that was about 40 years ago. He was 10 at the time.
Oh my.
So Jojo, one of my favorite Aussies. So yeah, that's scary. I mean, it could very well have been the case. I mean, since you had no.
Oh, sure. Sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's for here, for the Gifford Pin Show. It's really people going missing is not, sadly enough, it's not that unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Have you ever searched at Mount Baker? T-Bone asks.
No, I haven't. I should though. I've heard some pretty interesting stories from Baker.
Okay.
Might have to put that on the old TDL. But honestly, this area right now, this area keeps me plenty busy.
I'm sure.
I bet.
That's a lot of activity and different types of activity too.
Oh yeah, I had one come into my camp last year back in, must have been about August. I was camping and I could hear it walking around my tent. And I mentioned, I kind of tell the story in a couple of different videos. But I woke up must have been about 1:30. And I was up working. I'd take my laptop with me so I can work on these videos. And about an hour later, I could hear something walking around the outside of my tent. And what was strange about it was that it didn't see. I can tell a lot of different kinds of footsteps when I hear them, because when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm, and when I was a kid, I used to go out by myself, and I used to camp in our pasture. We had cows out there, and I'd wake up in the morning and peek out of my bag, and these cows would be in a circle, just sitting there staring, because cows are they're not very bright, but they're always really curious.
Yeah.
And I know hoof prints. I know hooves when they're walking around. So I was hearing this walking around, but it wasn't hooves. But it was heavy enough to where I can actually hear it. And so I'm sitting and listening to it, and so I just thought, well, maybe I'll just be quiet and it'll go away. And because it's probably just curious. So I could hear it. It would step a few times and it would stop. And then it would take a few more steps and it would stop. It was almost like it was just kind of checking it out. And then I heard like a crinkling sound. And I thought, oh, shoot. I know what that crinkling sound is. It's that.
You didn't say, oh, shoot.
I said, shoot.
I'm kidding.
Somebody about 6 months ago had commented something about, they said something like nice audio, because I had a lot of bad language. So I thought I should probably clean the language up a little bit.
Sorry, I'm just
shoot.
You there.
I
appreciate you not doing that. That's fine.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I heard this crinkling sound. I thought, oh, shoot. I know what that crinkling sound is. It's that cheap tarp that I put my tent on. There's usually about 4 inches of it sticking out. It was stepping on that edge of that tarp, and I thought, yeah, it's whatever it is, it's right there.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, well, I thought it might go away if I was just really quiet. Well, obviously it's not. Now it's right up on the tent, and so I don't know why. So I made this, like when you try to scare a cat away, you just go, scat. I did that a few times, and then it got quiet. So I waited for a while, and I didn't hear it anymore. Well, then I went to sleep. I must have slept about 4 or 5 hours, and it must have been about maybe 6:30, 6:45. I heard this really loud snap. See, it was kind of that evening before, I heard a tree fall, or at least what I thought sounded like a tree fall. And that was a little bit unusual. I was texting a friend telling her that, check this out. I just heard a tree fall. Now that was probably about maybe 6:37 or something like that. But anyhow, I woke up to this really, really loud snap. Like a branch breaking.
Yeah.
And it came from that same area where I heard the tree fall the night before, but it was really loud, and that was what I woke up to. And so I thought, well, I think I'll just wrap up camp, because I was moving out anyhow that day. And it was obviously I wasn't going to get any sleep now. So I wrapped up camp, and while I was packing up, I kept hearing that, and it kept coming from that same spot up the road. And this is that same camp that I was at where I saw the hiker.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird. That's why I frequent that place, is because there's always something happening there. So I kept hearing these like a stick break, and then you could hear it land in the brush. And I kept thinking, what is that? And I was just wrapping camp up, and I just happened to be standing right by the front of my truck. The very last thing I do when I wrap up camp is I have my outdoor carpet. I lay it over the hood and I sweep it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last thing I do. And I was standing there and I heard the snap again. And I looked down the road, and a limb goes over the road, lands in the brush.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Wow.
okay. So, well, of course, there's only one way in and one way out, and I got to go down there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Stay another night.
yeah,
Yeah. Do that.
So I took and I fired up my GoPro, and of course, like an idiot, when something interesting happens, I don't have the camera running. It would have been nice to have that,
Yeah.
And so I'm going down this road. I was expecting to get limbs on the truck, because the gist that I had gotten out of being there at that time was something did not want me in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it could have been whatever it was that was walking around there. I mean, I would say most likely it was. So I go out this road, and I have the GoPro, and that's on one of my videos too. Going back, I had the GoPro going because I was expecting to get something landing in my truck or something like that. But I crept through there, and then nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped out there at the end of the road, and I had put a game cam up. This is right on the edge of that clearing. I put a game cam up in that clearing that night before. And I was thinking, well, maybe I should check the game cam quick before I left. But then I was thinking about whatever it was in that tree line might still be there. So I got out of the truck, and I was standing there, and I heard some more of this going on. But this time it wasn't on the road. It was right up. It was where I was. Whatever it was following me. It was following me right inside of the tree line.
Oh.
Wow.
So I opted out of the game cam check, and I just, I called it a day then.
Yeah, understandable.
Did you go back for it later?
I'm sorry?
Did you go back for the game cam later?
Yeah. Yeah, I went and got the game cam, and it had some coyotes on it, and some other stuff. It wasn't really anything too out of the ordinary there. But,
So one thing I noticed when I was looking for that footage of the hiker, you do have a lot of game cameras set up around there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or when you go out there, do you get much stuff other than coyotes or other wild animals out there?
I don't, and I think I've kind of figured out the trick to these game cams, and I think the big problem that most people have trying to get things on them, and I think the major problem is the smell.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when people put game cams up, they don't mask any smells or anything like that. Well, if you figure most animals can smell anything,
yeah.
And back in the day, I don't hunt anymore because it's just such a pain in the butt now,
Mm-hmm.
But I used to hunt. I mean, I grew up hunting, and with my best trick when I used to hunt was, well, the two best tricks is, for one, I'd go up there a few weeks before and see where they're going. Usually if there's a water source, you always know that they're going to be, any deer, elk, any animals they're going to be going to and from a water source. So I'd usually just find the trail there, and then on the first day of season, I'd just find a ridge to something, where I could overlook the trail, and I'd usually get something every, on the first day.
Right.
But one of my favorite tricks is I would take my hunting clothes, and I would wash them with the fragrance-free laundry detergent.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I would do is I'd usually go get some cedar boughs in a garbage bag, and I would stuff my clothes full of these cedar boughs, put them in this bag for about a week or two, so it would kind of mask. So idea being is when I go out, there would be no smells on anything. And it worked. It always worked really good because, deer and stuff would come within 100 yards. And I think that's the problem with the game cams, is that people aren't masking the smells.
Interesting.
That is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what would you use on the game cams? Would you use that cedar?
Yeah, one project that I'm working on this year is, I was thinking that maybe I would come up with like create some sort of like a sock, something that you could pull over a game cam,
Mm-hmm.
almost like a ski mask, only for a game cam,
Mhm.
to try to mask the smell of them.
Yeah.
But also there would be, I think that it might be smart to come up with some good techniques to mask your footprints going in and placing them, because you figure you go in, especially up here where the vegetation's really thick, in the Gifford Pinchos. So when you're walking through the woods, I mean, you're touching everything and you're leaving your smells and everything behind on them.
Mhm.
I mean, of course, eventually, usually it'll go away in a week or two or so, depending on how much it rains and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's the major problem with the game cams. I think they would work great. It's just got to find a way to mask
Yeah.
the smell.
Yeah. We got a quick question that Virax asked a while back. And I think you might have answered this already. With all your time spent in Mount St. Helens region, has there been a specific moment or encounter that made you feel like you were being studied just as much as you were studying them?
That's a great
Oh,
question.
absolutely. Yeah, especially well, it's just like that time that I mentioned where I was in that tent and I was walking around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I were a Bigfoot or something like a Bigfoot and I was curious about something, what would I do? I'd probably do exactly the same thing that happened. I would probably go in. I'd be very careful. I'd maybe take a few steps, stop and listen. Take a few steps again, stop and listen.
Yeah.
And then, it goes back. And then, of course, like that experience I had a couple of weeks ago where there was something quite clearly behind that tree.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So now when I look back, I wonder how many times I've been studied back there, only I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to, I wonder if, any of us going in the woods, I'm sure we're all being studied by them somehow. I mean,
Oh, sure.
yeah, it's,
Sure.
I think it would just kind of blow our minds if we knew how much we were being watched when we're going in the woods.
Yeah, it's almost like one of those
Kinda
things
scary.
where I almost don't want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I
if
was just
did,
kind
I
of
might not
thinking
go
that.
back
Yeah,
out.
that might not be the greatest thing in the world to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're as fascinated with us as we are with them.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you turn it over, I mean, we would do the same thing.
Mhm.
If there were
And
creatures out walking around in our streets, out in front of our houses, we'd be curious too.
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, definitely.
Mhm.
And you might have answered this one while I was I know you were talking about lava tubes while I was looking for your video. T-Bone did ask, might the lava tubes lead to the inner earth? Interesting.
Well, it's probably. I mean, it's it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
It's probably. I mean, I would hazard a guess that the condition that a lot of lava tubes are now, they're probably quite a bit different than they were when they were first formed. You got mountains move, and you're always hearing about how like caves are discovered, like Lovelock Cave, for example, was rediscovered a few hundred years ago or something like that, but it had been shut off for thousands of years before the first animals were in there.
Yeah.
So it probably happens with lava caves or lava tubes too, I'm sure.
Yeah. What about any kind of UFO activity? Because I've heard a friend of mine up in Alaska thinks he saw some kind of unexplained object coming out of an active volcano up there.
Oh, that's yeah. There's quite a bit. There's especially if you go south down toward Shasta, if you go down there, there's if you talk to any of the native tribes down there, they'll to them it's just an everyday thing.
Right.
Of watching these crafts go in and out. I haven't really delved too much into the UFO stuff here since I've been here, just because the Bigfoot stuff has kept me pretty busy. But yeah, I am actually right now. I'm in MUFON's program. I'm studying to get their investigator.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I've talked to a few MUFON people, and I'm a big into the UFO phenomenon and everything, and I think that would be kind of cool to talk to witnesses and stuff, and kind of study that.
Yeah, I still have some I should put them up. I have some photos of a craft that I saw when I was I think I must have been in about 6th grade.
Really?
Really? I still have the photos from those. Yeah, they were where I lived at the time, on the farm I grew up in. We were right in the valley at the base of the Rocky Mountains, and there were the sightings were really common there, just especially right in that valley. In fact, there was a specific kind. You've heard of people say that they see a cigar-shaped craft.
Yeah.
Well, these were really common where I lived. People would talk about these all the time, and I saw one once. When I was a kid, I had this little one. They had these little cameras. They were popular. They were 110s. They had this little 110 film in there. It was a really small film, and I saw this once, and I just took pictures of it, ran inside, and told Dad there's something weird in the sky, and he went out, and I still have those photos. But yeah, that was pretty common there.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean,
yeah. Have you ever seen any orbs in the forest?
Yeah, well, I haven't myself, but like people that I work with here, they've seen them quite a bit. I've had I've had times where I've seen lights going up and down the creeks and things like that. But back then it was I wasn't really I wasn't really a researcher per se back then. So it was kind of like one of those things where I've seen them, but I didn't really know what I was looking at, or they just, you know what I'm saying. It was kind of like not too long ago I was working on a video. I was just kind of walking around yapping, and I was thinking about how when you walk out in the woods, it's just a hike in the woods, but once you become a Bigfoot researcher or a paranormal researcher, it's something totally different, because you notice things and you see things that you would have never noticed before.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're opening yourself up. You're more in tune, and you're inviting
that
in, and they feel, okay, I'm okay to show myself. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly it. And I mean, I've always been a photographer. I've been a photographer since I was a kid, and now I've been thinking this last year, I need to go back through my old photos and scrub my old photos and find it, because I just see orbs and stuff like that, but I always just thought they were just anomalies and just wasn't paying attention to them. I probably got years and years and years of orbs, especially here. Because I got thousands and thousands of photos that I shot up around here, and I'd see an orb or something, I would just clone it out, when I was touching them up in Photoshop, I just clone orbs out.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see them as to me, they're just like specks of dust or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you clean your sensor and they're still there,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? But I just
Yeah.
thought they were always just kind of annoyances, like my sensor didn't catch them,
Yeah.
Oh, I'd just be touching my photos up, and I'd just clone them out. Right?
You caught that stuff way before you even thought you were going to catch
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. I used to catch even when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I built a dark room when must have been about 11. I built my own dark room. Of course,
Nice.
that was pretty
That's
unusual
cool.
back then because
Yeah.
most adults didn't do that. And I would have things like that. And of course, back then you couldn't Photoshop them out. And so, yeah, sometime probably this winter, I'm going to go through all those old photos and I still have negatives. I was at least doing enough to save the negatives. I didn't know, at first what they were for until I started, doing the darkroom work. But
Yeah.
I would catch these things on film all the time when I was a kid, but I didn't really think of them as being, anything metaphysical or something like that. To me, they were just, I didn't know what they were,
Yeah. Do you think that the orbs are connected to Bigfoot or aliens or anything, or?
Well, it's kind of like, it's kind of like I was saying before, that the more time I spend on this, the more I see that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the more I discover that I don't know, the more things now become they're on the table now.
Yeah.
Because there's only, you can only explain things to a certain level where you have to start considering that it has to be paranormal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or extraterrestrial. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if there's no other explanation, it's like this thing that was throwing the sticks. Well, if you count out, if you eliminate all the animals up there that can't throw sticks, you either run out of animals or you have to come up with another one,
Mm-hmm.
one that can break and throw sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, I think it's the same way with paranormal connections or connections between orbs and Bigfoot. Well, if you rule everything out, that's what you end up with. That's probably going to be your explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought us back to that stick being thrown, because I wanted to ask you then, and it kind of got away from me. Other than that stick, have you had rocks thrown at you or anything crazy like that, trying to get you out
Well,
of there?
you go up in these places and like every time I go into Panther Creek, I always hear sticks break or things landing and stuff, and but they happen in onesies, onesies and twosies.
Mm-hmm.
If they would happen in like a sequence, then you could track it down and kind of figure out what it is. But it's like you'll be out there and you'll just hear a noise, and that's the only noise that you'll hear the rest of the day. So it's like it can be almost anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what was one really weird thing that happened is when I first moved over here, I was in a place called Nat Creek, and I think it must have been I think I lived here for maybe a year or something like that. And I was on this place called Nat Creek, and I had pulled over. I had an FJ Cruiser at the time, and that was when the FJs were coming out, and I had bought a new FJ, and I was out trying it out,
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped for a little bit to shoot some photos, and I'm standing there, and way off, I mean, it was probably a quarter mile away, I saw a huge, huge bird just take off out of a tree and fly off. And I thought, God, that's the biggest bird I ever saw. I mean, the thing was like the size of a small car. And of course, I didn't really know that much about the area yet because I was still fairly new. And so I was asking some coworkers about it because I was telling them, yeah, I saw this huge bird. And they kept telling me, well, several people told me it was something like what was it, a turkey buzzard or something like that. I don't even remember now. And I looked up online, and that was not what that was. This thing was huge. It was just a huge bird,
Mhm.
and it flew off. Well, it wasn't too long ago. I was telling somebody about it at a Squatch Fest, a native guy, and he said, "Well, you saw a thunderbird." He knew exactly what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
He said, you saw a thunderbird.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, at that time, I remember thinking to myself after I saw this bird, I kept thinking, what the hell kind of place did I move to?
What did I do?
I keep running out of this weird stuff all the time. Like, man, this is a screwed up place, man. I'm staying.
That's the right attitude.
There it is.
And I'm still here.
Yeah. How long have you been there? No.
Been here since 2005.
Wow. So
Well,
20 years.
I moved here from Spokane, so I didn't really move. It wasn't really too far, but
Yeah.
I grew up in Montana, and then
Wow.
yeah. It's quite a place, quite an interesting place. If you like weird stuff,
Yeah.
this is a good place to be because let me tell you, there's plenty of it.
Yeah.
We love weird stuff.
Yeah.
The weirder, the better.
That's right. I mean, it wouldn't be a paranormal show without weird.
Yeah.
Is there other places that you want to go and research besides up in Washington State?
Oh yeah, there's see here just south of where we're at, is Northern Oregon, and of course that's where the Oregon Trail went right through there. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, it was it was in 23. It was the year before I started getting really deep into the Bigfoot topic. I spent a lot of time and I want to go back now because I want to go back. I kind of want to lean a little bit into the paranormal, and because I spent most of 2023 poking around outside of the towns in Northern Oregon, tracking down the old cemeteries, because there's hundreds of old cemeteries in that area, and you don't find them most of them you won't find on Google Maps. Yeah, some are on private property and stuff, and there's a lot of paranormal activity that happens in those areas, and it seems it would make sense too, because you figure the Oregon Trail, there's a lot of human experience going through there. A lot of it was probably not very good. Probably a lot of suffering and
negative energy still there.
Yeah. And there's still a lot of structures in these areas, especially. You'll be driving out there and you'll just see an old schoolhouse somewhere, or an old hotel or something like that, and out there, and they're just out there. People don't know what they are. They just drive by them. They don't really. I don't think they really even wonder what they are. But that's what they are. They're first buildings in these areas.
Yeah, interesting.
Wow.
Since you mentioned cemeteries, any dogman stories or encounters or evidence that you've seen?
Not so much. I don't think that, or at least as far as I can tell, there is some dogman lore here, but it's probably not as prevalent here as it probably is like more in the Midwest or on the East side. But there are things like the ape cat. Yeah. But for as far as I know, or at least as far as I can tell, here it's pretty much Bigfoot and UFOs and ghosts here. Yeah. You need to come down to, if you can come down to the Midwest, the LBL, well, really any place down in the Ozarks here in Missouri and Arkansas. It's Bigfoot country down there, but LBL, Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, Natalie knows all about it. Bigfoot's.
I'll be there this fall.
Yeah, Bigfoot dogman encounters in there. So.
Yep.
Oh, good.
spending a week in the wilderness with a great
Are
group
ya?
of people. Yeah. And we're going to see what we can find.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
You see what you find, or see what finds you.
Yeah. I'm hoping it finds me.
So you two have a lot in common. You guys go out hunting or squatching by yourself. That's
Mhm. Yeah.
that's weird to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. It's better
It
that
is.
way.
Yeah, a lot of people find it kind of unusual. I mean, I'll go out with other people once in a while. It's just the thing is, I do a lot of things on just kind of on a whim, and I like to do, and I go often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, for a lot of people, it's going squatching. For a lot of people, it's kind of like going on a camping trip. You know, they plan it. You know, they go out and they buy hot dogs, and it's like a little vacation or something like that. To me, it's just normal. You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
my camping gear for the most part really just lives in my truck. The only time I take it out is if I clean the truck. Right? I mean,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. It's just something that it's something that I've become accustomed to because I've done it since I was a kid.
And
Just
that's
went
good.
out
That's something that kids don't do as much nowadays. You don't
Mhm.
hear that, going camping, maybe with the Cub Scouts or Boy
Mhm.
Scouts and stuff, but you don't hear that as much now.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my little sleeping bag, and I had this little square Tupperware thing that back in the day people would use those because you'd put a sandwich in them. They were just the perfect time for a sandwich in it. But I had one and I had this little, it was a bottle of Army issue mosquito repellent. You know, the
Mhm.
stuff works really good. And
Wow.
I'd have some wood matches, and of course this is back in the 70s. A lot of people smoked, and my older sisters that were in high school and young adults, I'd sneak cigarettes out of their packs, and I'd have my couple little smokes, that I'd sneak, and I'd go
Yeah.
down in the pasture, and camp, make a fire,
Yeah.
smoke my smokes, and that was pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, ever since then, I've always done it. So
Yeah. Have you ever been gifted anything by a Bigfoot or gifted a Bigfoot? Left anything on farm?
well, I do leave treats up there and stuff like that, and I don't really know if I would say necessarily that they gift back, or at least not with me. But I
Mhm.
had but yeah, I mean, the whole idea when I first started operating up in that in that specific spot up at Mount St Helens, the idea was that I was bringing them gifts up there, and what I wanted them to do was I was trying to get them to affiliate my presence and my smells with treats, with good stuff.
Mm.
Mhm.
And some people have suggested, and it could be true, was when I was at camp and that one came and walked up on my tent and I ran it off, I might have hurt its feelings or made it angry or something. I might have just blown the whole project.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have had. There's a few other people that have worked with me before, and they've gifted up there, and I see some of their gifts are gone. Some are still there, even almost a year later. So I do believe that is something that I that is a thing up there, that the Sasquatch will. I think they'll take your gifts. They may not necessarily leave one,
Mm-hmm.
but
Huh.
the thing is if you were a Bigfoot and you wanted to leave a gift, what would you leave? You'd probably be you might leave a rock or something like that. So you could actually have gifts there and just not even know that's what they were.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be a pine cone or
Or a branch
Sure.
being thrown at you.
yeah, or branch
Right.
being thrown.
Sure. Yeah. 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 I always think that's a big part of the approach that I try to use when I go out is if I were a Bigfoot, what would I do? Where would I go?
Mm-hmm.
How would I react to this?
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to look for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very interesting approach, as opposed to hunting it and just trying to find it. You're trying to mimic it and see, kind of figure out where they're going to go, and almost kind of trying to beat them to the punch there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I came up with that when I first started seriously using that idea. I was actually just joking around because I was walking around. It was a little over a year ago, and I was walking around where the ape cave parking lot was, but at the time the roads were gated off, so I was the only one back there, and I was just trying to be funny, and I had my GoPro and I was yapping, and
Mm-hmm.
I was saying something like, I walked up to where the bathrooms were, and they have these little they have these trash bins, but they have the bear-proof doors on them. And I was saying something dumb like, if I were a Bigfoot, I'd be wondering if there was anything good in those garbage cans, and
Mm-hmm.
and then I walked out to like where the storm drain was, and it was backed up, and there was some water there, and I was saying something like, if I were a Bigfoot, I'd just pee in this thing just because I can, And then there was a no parking sign there, and if I were a Bigfoot, I'd park right here just because there's nothing anybody can do about it. And then later on, somebody was telling me, yeah, you should use that. You should use that as an approach. Well, if you were a Bigfoot, what would you do? Would you really pee in this thing, or wonder if there's anything good in the garbage can? Well, maybe you would.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's got to go somewhere. I mean,
All right.
It's not like there's Johnny on the spots out there for him. Anywho, this has been a very, very interesting show. Guys, make sure you go and check out his Steve's YouTube channel. Here it is again. Pam has been leaving it in chat all night. Here it is again. Make sure you go over there and check it out. There's some very interesting stuff over there, and you do a fantastic job. It seems.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Out there.
Yeah, there'll be there's I have several things in the works that are going to be coming up. There's I think some people, you're probably aware, you're probably familiar with that story of there was some miners back in the 20s, some gold miners that had a cabin up in a place called Ape Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
And they were attacked and basically ran out of their cabin by what they called them devilmen, but they were hairy, quote unquote hairy beasts. Well, they were seeing them up there, and one of them took a shot at one, and then it was like, I guess a night or two later, these things attacked their cabin, throwing rocks on them. Well, that's a place called Ape Canyon.
Yeah.
And one of my next projects, probably in the next few weeks, is I'm gonna do a night op up there in Ape Canyon.
Very
that
cool.
was a good time. Because see, like last year, I couldn't get up there last year because the winter runoff washed some of the roads out, and they didn't fix the roads. You couldn't get up the roads up to the trailheads last year. They didn't fix them up until hunting season came. Yeah. That was in like November. So then right after hunting season, then they're just gated off. But I see this year they're open. You can get to the trailhead. So that's going to be another. That'll be one of the projects upcoming.
Yeah.
Will be it'll be a night hike up there. That'll be interesting.
That will be. Well, we want to hear about that next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully it'll yield a story to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This has been really fun.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming on, and you had a lot of great comments, great questions. Thank you guys in chat for helping out. And it's awesome. I appreciate you coming on. And real quick, where can we find you outside of YouTube?
I do have a Facebook page, same name, Steve Searches on Facebook.
Okay.
I do have an Instagram that I post on like maybe twice a year or something like that. I'm trying to be a little bit better about this, the social media stuff.
Yeah. I get you.
But yeah, I mean, if there's also stevesearches.com, goes to a blog that I originally put up as a missing persons blog. I mean, it's I post on it probably half as much as I do on Instagram. But for the most part, most of the ways to get a hold of me would be YouTube and Facebook, or Boomer Book, as my boys call it.
Boomer Book.
Yeah. I keep hearing about that one.
Awesome. Well, guys, Steve, again, thank you so much for spending part of your early evening out there. Natalie, again, thank you so much for running the co-hosting chair tonight. Guys, make sure you check out BMR coming on later on tonight, 10 o'clock Central Time. That's 11 in the East. So I think that's it. Monday we have Bigfoot Dwarf coming on the Monday night show here. So make sure you tune in to that. So once again, I want to give a quick thank to Amy Creel for gifting 5 memberships. T-Bone for your $20. I appreciate you. And Mickey, I appreciate you too. Too tired to race tonight. She was too tired to race tonight, but I believe she was number 1 tonight. I can't get to the thing. I believe she was number 1. That's weird. Oh, here it is. Mickey was number 1. Barb was number 2. And Amy, I guess it's Amy Creel, was number 3. Awesome. All right, guys, have a wonderful night. See you guys Monday, and make sure you guys tune into BMR later on tonight. See you guys. Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.